Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Thursday to you. Lots of news to get to this morning, so we're moving very quickly. Police have increased their guard around Buckingham Palace and other landmarks. Security officials monitored what they described as a fledgling terror plot to wage Mumbai-style shooting sprees and other attacks on Britain, France, and Germany. The Eiffel Tower was briefly evacuated on Tuesday, second time in 2 weeks. Secretary Clinton has said that U.S. is working closely with its European allies. And at the same time, the President of the United States, President Obama, told Bob Woodward in the research for his book, Obama's Wars, that the U.S. can absorb a terrorist attack. I'm going to let you hear the words of the president in his own words rather than me repeat it, and you make up your mind on what this sounds like to you. Here it is.
I said very early on as a senator and continued to believe as a presidential candidate and now as president that we can absorb a terrorist attack. We'll do everything we can to prevent it, but even a 9/11, even the biggest attack ever, that ever took place on our soil, we absorbed it and we are stronger. This is a strong, powerful country that we live in, and our people are incredibly resilient.
United States Congressman Pete Hoekstra from Holland and West Michigan on the other end of our line. Good morning to you.
Hey, thank you. Good morning.
What do you make of that comment by the president?
I actually think when you take it in its entirety, I think it's fine.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, what the president makes a couple of 3 points. Number one, we are going to do everything we can to stop a terrorist attack against the United States. Mm-hmm. The second point is we are a strong nation. Mm-hmm. And the third thing is if somehow we find or the terrorists find a gap in our defenses and there is a successful attack, we are strong enough to withstand that attack, to bounce back, and to become stronger because of it. And I don't find anything controversial in that statement by the president. I think some of the early press reporting or some of the early critique of that part of the president's statement all focused on, well, we can absorb an attack, and people were implying that the president wasn't going to do everything that we can to keep America safe and not have another attack. And it's kind of like, well, hey, if it happens, it happens. But I think listening to this whole quote, it's clear the president is focused on the key priority, which is we're going to do everything that we can to stop the next attack.
Well, I guess you can see why it would make some people uncomfortable. For instance, the Heritage Foundation says it demonstrates that the commander-in-chief's cavalier and frightening approach to national security, and they say it'd be like Goldman Sachs saying we can go out and absorb another financial crisis.
I've got a lot of friends at Heritage. I've got lots of disagreements with this president about how he's conducting national security, how he's conducting this war against terror, and those types of things. You and I have probably talked about what some of those disagreements are. Mm-hmm. But to pick on the president for this statement, I'm not going to be a part of that. I think that there's other more substantive disagreements that if I want to talk about where I disagree with the president, I wouldn't start here.
Mm-hmm. It's a very different approach than President George Bush, though, where he used phrases like dead or alive, with us or against us, they're going to hear from us, that kind of cowboy talk.
Well, it's different than the cowboy talk, and so maybe they're the same things, but I don't think George Bush, in terms of the 3 points that were made by this president, George Bush would disagree. I think, probably said very much the same after 9/11, that, hey, we're going to move forward. We're going to do everything we can to keep America safe. We are a strong nation. And after 9/11, I think we all agreed. We didn't like what happened on 9/11. We wish it hadn't happened. We did a critical evaluation as to what didn't work and how the terrorists were why they were so successful on 9/11. But we did absorb 9/11. It was very, very painful, but we moved on. We became stronger. Really up until Fort Hood, we've been successful in stopping any other attacks on U.S. soil.
Well, let's hope we don't have to find out what it means to absorb another attack. However, what do you know about this business where they'd shut down the Eiffel Tower, where there are high-profile places like Buckingham Palace on guard? Are there any U.S. sites included in that supposed Mumbai-style terror attack?
Well, I think, is what, I know a lot about what all of these threat streams are.
Yeah.
I can't get into a lot of detail other than clearly if you're evacuating the Eiffel Tower, clearly if there are press reports that the security around Buckingham Palace is increased, the Mumbai style attacks, what do we know? We know that over the last number of months, really over the last number of years, Al-Qaeda in Pakistan, Al-Qaeda on the Arabian Peninsula, Al-Qaeda in Northern Africa and the Maghreb, they are all focused on attacking either our allies in Europe or the United States of America, and they are extremely frustrated that there has not been another successful attack against the West. And so there appears to be, and I wouldn't dispute it, I think it's accurate, there's an urgency to have a successful attack against the West. And we should all be on our guard.
Well, we had the near car bombing in Times Square. We had the near explosion of a Northwest Airlines flight on Christmas Day coming into Detroit. Can you tell us what you would know about any desired targets inside the United States?
I can't get into what our intelligence would or would not be telling us about targets in the United States. Just know that with all of the indications out there in the media that there's discussions and apparently plots to attack the West. This administration, again, I disagree with some of their strategies and those types of things, but they're working hard. We're working hard in Congress to try to give the Intel Committee the tools, or the Intel community, the tools that they need to keep America safe. Now, we passed an Intel reform bill last night that's going to make its way to the president that I was very, very critical of because I think that the terrorist networks have changed their strategies. They have changed their tactics over the last 18 to 24 months. And the intelligence authorization bill that expires tonight at midnight. It's good. Once the president signs it, it becomes the law of the land. But it will only be the law of the land for a few hours, and that's if he signs it today, which we don't even know if he'll sign it today. But I thought it was a seriously flawed bill and really jeopardizes our safety in this new kind of threat environment. Congress didn't connect the dots in the bill that we passed last night.
Okay, and now we also, just to speak domestically for just a moment, we have an extension to keep the government running through December, as I understand. Here in Michigan, we did reach a budget agreement. We'll talk to the governor about that a little bit later. But one thing that hasn't been addressed is the extension of the so-called Bush tax cuts. Is it as simple as saying the Republicans want the tax cut for everyone and the Democrats don't want it for people who make more than $200,000 a year?
Actually, that's not true at all. I think there have been a couple of different letters to the Speaker of the House, one that was signed by 31 Democrats, and I think another one by over 40 Democrats, who have all implored the Speaker to have a vote on whether these tax policies that have been in place for the last 7 to 9 years, whether they should all be extended or not. There are a number of Democrats who are willing to join with Republicans in saying that increasing taxes on anybody in this fragile economy is a bad idea. Congress is now adjourned until November 15, and so that uncertainty is going to be out there in terms of what's going to happen with tax policy beginning on January 1. And no, I think the bipartisan consensus is that the Republicans and some Democrats, enough Democrats, there are enough Democrats in the House to vote with Republicans to extend all of the Bush-era tax cuts and extend them for at least another 2 years. That's why we didn't vote on it. If Nancy Pelosi, if the Speaker Pelosi had the votes to pass what her wish is to increase taxes on some Americans, she would have had the vote. She didn't have the votes. Her position would have been overturned by Republicans and Democrats. That's a bad place for the Speaker to be. When you're in a bad position as the Speaker, you make sure the vote doesn't take place. And in this case, you make sure that your members go home.
Yeah, and funny how there was no vote on that before the election for the real Democrats. Congressman Pete Hoekstra, one-time candidate for governor. We'll find out where he's going next the next time we speak. Thank you very much for the clear chat this morning. I greatly appreciate it.